All week, the U.S. media has been focused on impeachment. But now, another big headline: ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi killed during a U.S. raid. U.S. President Donald Trump made the announcement this weekend, blowing out all those plans for Sunday morning impeachment coverage. This was the take from his favorite network, Fox.
Baghdadi was killed. Al-Baghdadi's been killed today.
The great news that al-Baghdadi is dead.
The leader of ISIS confirmed dead.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead.
It was some good news for the Trump administration after some very difficult weeks of impeachment coverage. The sharks have been circling with reports that Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, could testify against him, to his former chief of staff saying he warned Trump he would be impeached. And when stories like these break, a lot of the Trump base turns to Fox, where, like everywhere, this impeachment inquiry has been nonstop news.
This is the deep state fighting back against a disruptive, unconventional president.
There were no strings attached. Zero quid pro quo. Doesn't exist.
Media and political elites in Washington went all in on the Russia collusion conspiracy theory.
It's an attack on the American voter. They're talking about trying to undo an election.
So far, that's been Fox's spin, that the impeachment inquiry is a witch hunt. While Trump calls CNN, the New York Times, and others enemies of the people, he's never had a problem with Fox.
Because I turned on a very good show in the morning, Fox and Friends. They treat us great. I just want fairness. What a great group.
Fox is often seen as downplaying bad news for Trump, but cracks are starting to appear this summer as headlines everywhere blared he'd allegedly offered a quid pro quo to the president of Ukraine to hurt Joe Biden's family. Fox reported it too, and it ran a poll suggesting Trump was in trouble. Trump was not pleased.
Fox has changed, and my worst polls have always been from Fox. There's something going on at Fox, I'll tell you right now, and I'm not happy with it.
The New York Times reports Trump even called the CEO of Fox News to complain. But that wasn't all. Just hours before the Democrats launched the impeachment inquiry, Shep Smith, one of Fox's lead anchors, did this interview.
The president admits that on a phone call with the president of Ukraine, he requested that the president of Ukraine investigate his 2020 political rival, Joe Biden. Is that a crime?
It is a crime for the president to solicit aid for his campaign from a foreign government.
So that would be that to which the president has admitted is in and of itself a crime.
Yes, this is the same crime for which the Trump organization was investigated by Bob Mueller, who decided not to seek an indictment because there wasn't enough evidence.
Not really the kind of analysis you normally hear on Fox News. So, of course, Trump saw it and tweeted that Fox and Shep Smith no longer serve the U.S. A few weeks later, Smith quit, walking away from a $15 million contract.
Even in our currently polarized nation, it's my hope that the facts will win the day, that the truth will always matter, that journalism and journalists will thrive. I'm Shepard Smith, Fox News, New York.
Got a little emotional, and that resignation, it shocked a lot of people. Smith, he didn't reveal why he was leaving the network, but in the following days, there were several reports, including one from CNN's Brian Stelter, that tensions between Smith and Fox's opinion hosts, Trump's biggest defenders, had reached a breaking point. And then this week, fellow Fox anchor Bret Baier went on a competing network and talked about his colleague's departure and criticized Trump's treatment of the press.
He's concerned about coverage, journalistic coverage, and I think he was proud of the news division at Fox. There's obviously an opinion side too, yeah. And he made a choice to leave.
When he calls journalists the enemy of the people, is that something that you feel endangers the press?
I think it's a problem. I don't love, that's a bad phrase. I think it's, we're all trying to do our job.
Very unusual to see that, and it got a lot of people wondering, are there now internal disagreements at Fox about how to cover Trump? We reached out to the network but got no response. It did, however, issue this press release about Smith's resignation, saying, while this day is especially difficult, we respect his decision and are deeply grateful for his immense contributions to the entire network. For 3 years, it's been a mutually beneficial relationship. More viewers, more support. And sometimes it's hard to tell where Fox ends and the White House begins. We tried to count just how many people have gone through that revolving door between the White House and Fox. Remember Sarah Sanders, Ben Carson, Hope Hicks, John Bolton, Anthony Scaramucci. Over the past 3 years, at least 25 people have worked for both Fox and Trump. So, of course, the other big thing to watch here, if Fox is cracking, will his Republican support? Well, we're starting to see a few cracks there, too. Even longtime loyalists, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell publicly contradicted Trump about his call to the Ukrainian president. We've never seen that before. Joining us now from New York to talk about all of this is NPR media commentator David Folkenflik, the author of Murdoch's World, the last of the old media empires, Fox, of course. So, David, there's a new study out saying that 98% of Fox viewers say that they would not support removing or impeaching Donald Trump. Just how influential is the network in the current situation?
Well, there's a fascinating dynamic that goes on that contains within it a contradiction. Fox is extraordinarily influential within the Republican Party, and particularly within those politicians who want to play off the hardcore Republican base, those who will, in this era, stay with the president no matter what. That said, you know, at any given moment, even during its most popular shows, Fox is reaching maybe 1% of the American population. It's that it has captured the conversation within the Republican Party, particularly the Republican Party in Washington, D.C., which is a more conservative and more Trump-loyal distillation of republicanism than you'd find in the population at large. The country as a whole favors the impeachment process, or at least the inquiry, by a pretty significant margin, and there seems to be a narrow margin, or at least within or slightly above the margin of error, that supports even the president's removal from office. Fox News is not reflecting the nation. Fox News is reflecting the imperatives and interests of the hardcore Fox viewer and hardcore Republican, which is to say Trump voter.
So now, with the impeachment inquiry, with polls suggesting that perhaps a majority of Americans are ready, perhaps, to see him go, is the friendship, is the love affair in trouble between Fox and Trump?
I think Fox may well face an inflection point or a decision point where it's got to decide, does it distance itself from the president or does it rally the faithful? So even if he is impeached, it's not clear he'll be removed from office. And even were he to be removed from office, is there something for the Fox News business model that's worthwhile in saying we are going to be the voice of the outraged loyalists, we are going to be the voice of opposition to the deep state, this is their rhetoric, that has somehow brought down this virtuous president who is acting in our behalf. And I think that Fox has to decide, is that going to make it too tough to claim, as it continues to do, that it takes the journalism side of its mission and obligation seriously? There are some good journalists embedded within Fox. It's just not the point of Fox. And therefore, that tension is going to play out writ large.
Can Trump survive without the support of Fox?
If Fox News were to turn on him before the impeachment hearings are done, I think it would be the death knell for him. It would signal to a lot of Republicans on the Hill, and particularly in the Senate, that they would not be attacked and besieged day after day by Fox's primetime hosts were they to oppose the president, were they to somehow vote to expel him from office, to convict him. After all, the Senate side would be a trial. The impeachment happens in the House, which is like an indictment. So if Republican senators and Republican lawmakers were convinced that they would not be subject to hour after hour, day after day, week after week harangue from major Fox News personalities, were they to turn on the president, I think that would be a very dire moment for the president indeed.
So it seems like Donald Trump has been hurt by some of the comments lately on Fox, suggesting that he's not as perfect as he was during the election. What do you think of his reactions?
I don't know if he's been hurt by it to any great degree. I know he's been felt betrayed by it because he expects not just support, but outright 100% loyalty down the line, not only from specific people on Fox, but from all people on Fox. He thinks they're on his team. And by the way, he's not really wrong, but he wants pure loyalty. What folks at Fox at times have offered is a reality check, and that is that a lot of the evidence that has been compiled by the investigators for the House Intelligence Committee and others conducting the impeachment inquiry is very damning for the president's involvement in just the things that he said didn't occur. And I think that's a problem. And so Fox has to ventilate some of that. It can't ignore it altogether, but you see through their story selection, through their angles on stories, and sometimes through their utter ignoring of the topics, that they're doing their best to mitigate the damage for him. He couldn't ask for better treatment, and yet somehow, almost every day on Twitter, he does.
Your book was about the Murdochs. Are the Murdochs starting to consider other options?
I think that they are warily supporting the president, and they are not showing great signs of distancing from him. But they are not punishing journalists like Chris Wallace from being tough on him and from even being tough on his own colleagues. I think Murdoch watches all of this. But if you have followed Murdoch's career in Britain and in Australia as well as in this country, you know he can pivot on a dime. His ideological convictions are real. At the same time, his alliance with Trump has never been one of a true believer on his part. But Murdoch is a hardened pragmatist and realist. If he thinks it will be damaging to Fox News to continue to support the president, he will pivot and he will turn away. And he will do it without a lot of tears and without a lot of pangs of conscience. He will decide that that's what he needs to do. He will convince himself that he needs to do it for the good of the country. At the moment, he's staying with Trump, and he may decide, even if Trump looks damaged, even if Trump looks imperiled, he may decide it's better business for the channel to stay loyal, by and large, to the president. But we haven't seen that. It hasn't quite gotten to that point yet. At the moment, the Republican establishment is not willing to go out on a limb, and Fox News is giving the president as much cover as possible.
Well, we'll keep watching how this relationship plays out. Thanks so much, David.
You bet.